Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tiravana Chari Unati Ravana Chari Unati John Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravidakacharya Astatara Sadashishiman, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnavani Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai. Shri Maya Purnavidam Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samavera Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. All glorious Sama devotees. All glorious Sama devotees. All glorious Sama devotees. All glorious to Shishi Guru and Sri Gauranga. Before we begin, I thought we'd have a little mini Istigosti again. For months now, it's steadily, all the pots have been washed every night. But for the last 2 nights, it's been dirty, pile, Govardhan Hill. And we have some unwanted guests that are here that like to feast on this, on the prasad. So, unfortunately, conveniently, there was the schedule was removed on who's supposed to clean what nights. So maybe we could get that schedule going again. So because these unwanted guests, they go into the boga, they go into the prasadam, they crawl on the deities. One Mataji told me she saw one crawling on Subhadra. It's not so. So we're trying to get rid of these unwanted guests. And Prabhupada said, if you want to get rid of a guest, don't feed him. So we're trying to get rid of these guests. Let's not feed the roaches. Try to be steady in this. Also, this sink out here, we have these screens here. Clean them out. So often I go there, and sometimes it's even backed up. It's because the screens are filled with. And don't dump it behind the sink, because then we're going to gather a bunch of prasadam. We're going to gather more rodents. So put it in the trash. Dump it in the trash. Otherwise, we're going to have a pile of prasadam back there. So it's not. It just takes a few seconds. Clean it out. Prabhupada said, or there's the saying, cleanliness is next to godliness. Prabhupada said, cleanliness is not next to it is godliness to be clean. So let's try to be clean. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, text number 14. Kshut Shamaya Mukhe Raja Sama Piyusha Varsinim Desinim Rodamanaya Nidadhe Sa Dayanvita Shuchamaya Mukhe Raja Soma Piyushu Varsinim Desinim Rodhamaya Manaya Nidadhesa Dayanvitaha Shuchamaya Mukhe Raja Soma Piyusha Varsinim Desinim Rodamanaya Nididhe Sadayanvitaha Sutshamhaya Mukhe Raja Soma Piyusha Varsinim Desinim Rodamanaya Nididhe Sadayanvitaha Shamaya Mukhe Raja Soma Piyusha Varsinim Desinim Rodamanaya Nididhe Sadayanvitaha Shamaya Mukhe Raja Soma Piyusha Varsinim Desinim Rodamanaya Nididhe Sadayanvitaha Shamaya Mukhe Raja Soma Piyusha Varsinim Desinim Rodamanaya Nididhe Sadayanvitaha. Shoot by hunger. Shamaya, when she was distressed. Mukhe, within the mouth. Raja, the king. Soma, the moon. Piyusha, nectar. Varsinim, pouring. Desinim, forefinger. Rodamanaya, while she was crying. Nididhe, placed. Sa, he. Dayanvitaha, being compassionate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki. Thereafter the child who was left to the care of the trees began to cry in hunger. At that time the king of the forest, namely the king of the moon, planet, out of compassion placed his finger, which poured forth nectar within the child's mouth. Thus the child was raised by the mercy of the king of the moon. Purport. Although the Apsara left her child to the care of the trees could not take care of the child properly. Therefore the trees handed the child over to the king of the moon. Thus Chandra, king of the moon, put his finger within the mouth of the child to satisfy her hunger. Interesting, huh? Another inconceivable thing. So we'll go to the next verse. This is text 15. Prajavishargha adishta pitramam anuvartata tatukanyam vararohang tung udvahata mahachiram. Since all of you are very much obedient to my orders, I ask you to immediately marry that girl who was so well qualified with beauty and good qualities. According to the order of your father, create progeny through her. So that's Vishnu speaking, correct? Purport. The Prachetas not only were great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but were very obedient to the orders of their father. Therefore the Lord asked them to marry the daughter of Pramlocha. How many Prachetas were there? 9? Yeah, that's what I thought. Now we'll go to this verse 16. Apatag dharma silaninam sarve samva samadhyama apatag dharma sileyang bhuyat patyan yapita saya. Translation. You brothers are all of the same nature, being devotees and obedient sons of your father. Similarly, that girl is also of the same type and is dedicated to all of you. Thus both the girl and you, the sons of Prachinabarhisat, are on the same platform, being united on a common principle. Purport. According to the Vedic principles, a woman cannot have many husbands, although a husband can have many wives. In special instances, however, it was found that a woman has more than one husband. Draupadi, for instance, was married to all the 5 Pandava brothers. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered all the sons of Prachinabarhisat to marry the one girl born of the great sage Kandu and Pramlocha. In special cases, a girl is allowed to marry more than one man, provided she is able to treat her husbands equally. This is not possible for an ordinary woman. Only one who is especially qualified can be allowed to marry more than one husband. In this age of Kali, to find such an equipoised woman is very difficult. Thus, according to Scripture, Kala Pancha Vivarjayat. In this age, a woman is forbidden to marry her husband's brother. This system is still practiced in some of the hilly tracts of India. The Lord says, Apratag dharma silhe yam, bhuyat patyam patyar pitasaya. With the blessings of the Lord, all things are possible. The Lord especially blessed the girl to surrender equally to all brothers. Apratag dharma, meaning occupational duty without difference of purpose, is taught in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3 primary divisions: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. The word yoga means acting on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Yagyarthat karmanon yatra loko yam karma bandhana taratham karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain unattached and free from bondage. One may act according to his own occupational duty just to satisfy the Yagya Purush, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is called Apratag Dharma. Different limbs of the body may act in different ways, but the ultimate objective is to maintain the entire body. Similarly, if we work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will find that we satisfy everything. What's the example? Yeah, you put water in the roots of the tree, then all the leaves and branches and everything gets water. And if you put food in the mouth, then it satisfies and it goes to the stomach, and the body is nourished. We should follow in the footsteps of the Prachetas, whose only aim was to satisfy the Supreme Lord. This is called Apratag Dharma. According to Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharmam Pratyajya Mamekang Saranam Braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This is the advice of Lord Krishna. Our only aim should be to act in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Lord. This is oneness, or Apratag Dharma. Om Jnanatamandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshumalitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Krotavachalang Pangunlang Hayate Gurim Yatkripa Tadaham Bande Shigurum Dinataranam Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavaneva Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So indeed it must be very difficult for a lady to treat her husbands equally. Even it's stated in the Mahabharata that Draupadi, she didn't treat her husbands. She favored Arjuna more than the others. So it's right, and she is such a great Vaishnavi. So very difficult to treat people equally, especially in a marriage where there's so many husbands. So this verse is quite interesting. That here it's mentioned that the sons of Prajinibharya were very obedient, and this is the nature of a disciple. And the father is also kind of like a guru, especially if the father is spiritually elevated. So to be obedient to Krishna, to be obedient to seniors, is very conducive for our spiritual advancement. In this age of Kali, it's not easy to advance in spiritual life. And here in the purport, Prabhupada mentions this karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. Now, karma yoga, or karma, when it's overcoated with devotional service, Prabhupada said it's called karma yoga. And jnana, when it's overcoated with devotional service, jnana yoga. But the goal is to reach the highest level of yoga, which is bhakti yoga. Yoginam api sarvesa madhyanan taratmana shraddhavan bhajateyama sameyiktaromutaha. Of all types of yogas, the highest is this bhakti yoga, where one is dedicated to serving Krishna. This is actually the pleasure of the soul, is to serve Krishna. And unfortunately, people throughout the world, they don't know much about God. Very little is known. But we're getting from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, so much information about Krishna, so that we can devote ourselves to Him. And we can get an idea of Krishna just by observing ourselves. Just like Prabhupada gives an example of, you take a drop of water from the ocean, and the quality is the same as the ocean, the big ocean. So we have desires. Krishna has desires. We have a form. Krishna has a form. He has qualities. We have qualities. So it's there. Prabhupada, I was just listening this morning, and Prabhupada said, therefore we are little gods. And even we become proud of being little gods. Not a big god, we become proud of being little gods. So false ego is a problem. So we could get an understanding of Krishna just by looking at ourselves. Just like you take a drop of water from the ocean, you get an idea of the whole ocean. So the goal is to become, as Prabhupada mentions in this verse 5 times, I think, apratag dharma, to become one with Krishna in desire. This is the goal. Whatever Krishna likes, that's what we like. Just like Pradyumna, one of Krishna's sons. It's described that if he likes something and Krishna didn't like it, then he hated it. And if he didn't like something and Krishna liked it, then he loved it. So this is a devotee, right? Just like ourselves. I think most of us here, we used to eat meat, unfortunately, and sometimes, unfortunately, we liked it. But now, it's repulsive. We wouldn't even think of it. It's because Krishna doesn't, he doesn't eat meat. He doesn't like meat. Patram pushram paloim toya, yome bhakta prayasti. If someone offers to me with love and devotion a leaf or flower, fruit or water, I'll accept it. So this is what we eat. And nowadays, many devotees, even you offer a devotee, listen, if you just eat this hamburger, I'll give you $1 million. And most devotees, some might say, to the side maybe, nobody sees. All right. But most devotees, not possible. Impossible. just repulsed by it because Krishna doesn't like it. So there's so many things. Intoxication. Some of us used to take intoxication, and some even liked it. But now, no. Illicit sex. So many things we used to do, but now it's repulsive. Just like Krishna, he was in a battle, and to try to distract Krishna, one lady was sent, and she was naked. And what did Krishna do? He turned his face away and went away. And this happened in our ISKCON society one time. It's kind of interesting. We'll glorify one devotee here, Mukunda Maharaj. He was in his sannyasa ashram, and one lady tried to distract him. She went there to clean up his room, apparently, and she was standing in the bathtub, naked. And when he went there to go take a shower, she was standing there naked and said, "Hey, Maharaj, let's have a good time." And what did he do? Same thing as Krishna. Turned around, went out, and she got some really bad karma for that. Very, very offensive. So the devotee does like that also. He was repulsed. What is this? And he just left and told the leaders, and she was sent away. So, as we become more and more advanced in spiritual life, we're only interested in that which Krishna is interested in. And we're not interested in anything else. So as we advance more and more in Krishna consciousness, and this becomes like a core of our existence. We only want to do things that are pleasing to Krishna, and we avoid everything else. There's a very nice example in this regard of one great devotee, Alabandhara. He was in the Gurukul, South India, and he was a very nice student. And the Gurukul teacher, Bhattacharya, he was a very nice teacher, and he had many students there. But in the kingdom nearby, there was a scholar, Kolahala Acharya. He was a great scholar, and he would go around and he would debate with other scholars. And if anybody lost, they would have to pay a tax to the king once a year. So this Bhattacharya, unfortunately, he lost 2 debates. So he had to pay the tax, but they were a poor ashram. So one of the representatives of the Kolahala Acharya, he sent one disciple there, and he's asking, "Where is your Bhattacharya?" And Alabandhara said, "Excuse me, what is your name, and why are you asking for my guru?" He said, he lost in a debate. He's got to pay. He's got to pay a tax. He hasn't paid in 2 years. Come on, where is he? And Alabandhara was shocked about his arrogance. He said, "Well, my guru lost to your guru in this debate, but he must be someone of very low character, because you're speaking in this way of such low character. I'm shocked. How could a so-called acharya be of such low character, to have someone like you who was such low character?" Said, I challenge your guru to a debate. And the student was shocked. He was just totally shocked. He said, I'll tell Gurudev. So he went back and he told him of the exchange that he had with Alabandhara. So the king heard about this also. So the king thought, well, maybe this is just some crazy kid, So he sent someone to go and check it out. So when someone came, and Alabantara said, "What is this? I'm debating with the king's scholar, and only you are coming. Come on, this is a big thing. This is no small thing. It should be appropriate. There should be a band." And so the representative went back and told the king, and the king said, "All right, he seems like he's up to par. All right, he wants someone to bring him. All right." So 100 people went down, elephant and everything, band, the whole thing, to bring him. So it became huge news in the city that this 12-year-old child, is going to debate with Kolahala. Because he was a very arrogant person, and nobody liked him. But he was a good scholar. So he was the king's scholar because of this. But yeah, nobody liked him. So the queen, she became interested in this debate. And the king also was very interested in this, in hearing this debate. And so the queen said, I think this boy is going to humble this Kolahala. And the king said, "Are you serious?" She said, "Yes, I'm so serious that if he loses, then I'll become the maidservant of your maid." Now that's she's the queen. So that's going way down. And he said, "Okay, I'll wager also. If he wins, then he will take half of my kingdom." He had a good-sized kingdom. So then Alabandhara is brought, and it's a huge thing. Like thousands of people are there. I don't know how they did the sound system, but a lot of people were there to hear this debate. So Kolahala, he started off with some grammar, checking his grammar, and then Alabantara very easily answered the questions, and they got into more intricate grammatical questions, and he passed everything. And he said, "All right, now I want to just make 3 statements to you, and if you can refute them, then I'll accept defeat. Your mother is not barren." He's like, "I'm sitting here. How could she be barren?" So he didn't say anything, but he's thinking like that. "The king is supremely righteous. Refute this if you can." Again, he's bewildered. Like, you want me to prove that he's not righteous? What is this? He didn't say anything. He's thinking like this. "And the queen, she is the chaste of the most chaste, the most faithful. Refute this if you can." Again, he's like, he can't say it. He's completely flabbergasted, doesn't know what to say. So many of the people they're like roaring, like, he's been defeated. But then he became angry. "Well, if you don't refute what you've said, then you should be killed for blasphemy." So it became a big thing, in the, arguing of this and that. Is he right, or is he, what's going to happen here? So Alabantara said, "No, I'll refute them." It is said in the Manu Shastra that if a woman has only one child, she's considered to be barren. And you, Kolahala, are the only child of your mother. So your mother is barren, according to Shastra. And the king, he accepts 1/6 of all the pious activities of his people. and 1/6 of their sinful activities. So he has to accept a lot of reaction. So how is this righteous? And the queen said, yes. Twice he's refuted. And then he said about the queen. The queen, she has her husband, but the husband, he represents many demigods. Vayu, Chandra, Yamaraj, and there's some more. So that means that she is also the wife of these demigods. So how can she be supremely chaste? Yeah. So there was a huge roar in the stadium that the arrogant rascal, he's been defeated. So there was much joy, actually. And the king, he was joyful also. Somehow he was, although he just lost half his kingdom. And she was also very joyful. And he even said, the king said to Alabandara, what do you want to do with this Kulahala? You know, he's offended you. No, I forgive him. It's okay. He wanted to put him to death, you know. So it's okay. It's okay. So he got half a kingdom. So news got out pretty quick amongst the other kingdoms that there's a boy that has a half a kingdom. He's got a big kingdom. So they brought their soldiers. But when he got half the kingdom, he got half the soldiers also. And he was very smart. So he was able to defeat whoever came to challenge him. And he became a big king. But there was a problem. When you become a big king, then devotional practices kind of dwindle. Therefore it's stated, Janmaistarya Shutashribhir Edamana Madatma Naivarhatyavatatu Tamakinchana Gotra. That Queen Kunti, she says that you are very easily approachable, but only by those persons who are materially exhausted. But those persons who want high birth, opulence, education, beauty, they cannot call out your name with feeling. So he had great opulence, you know, great wealth. So he had one grandfather, Nathamuni, who was a great saint. Nathamuni. And he is a great devotee. He had many disciples. And he was getting ready to leave his body. And he had a disciple, Ram Misra, who was also, he was his chief disciple, wonderful, you know, very advanced, elevated devotee. So he said to his guru, is there anything that I can do? It appears you're leaving us soon. Is there anything I could do? Any service? He said, yes. Alabandara, he was a good devotee. Now he's become bewildered by his opulence. Please, make him a devotee again. And shortly after he left his body. So Ramesar, he took this on his head to fulfill this last desire of his guru. So he had a plan. Now he was a big king. So he thought, well, I'll just, you know, I'm a Brahmana, so maybe I can just go in and speak to him. But he was such a big king, and for whatever reason, he couldn't do that. Just go in and speak to him. So he came up with a plan. There's this plant called Tuduvalai, which it's kind of like a spinach, but it's an herb, and it makes one peaceful and, you know, mode of goodness. And so he was making this this little sabji every day and bringing it to the cook. Please give this to Alabandara. So he did, and he said what it is. And the cook, he was aware of the good qualities and the good of this particular sabji. So he was bringing it every day. Every day he was bringing it to the king. And Ram Misra, he got word that the king very much appreciated it. The cook told him there. So he thought, all right, this is the time. So he didn't bring it. So Alabantari said, oh, where is that shak sabji? Where is it? And the cook said, oh, the person, one sadhu, he usually brings it. He didn't come today. So Alabantara said, when he comes again, tell him I want to see him. Next time he comes. I said, okay. So the next day he came. He said, oh, the king wants to see you. He very much likes the sabji you're bringing every day. So he went in to see him. So he said, yeah, this is very nice. I feel like I'm having a change in consciousness just by eating this nice sabji you're bringing. Is there anything I can do for you? He said, well, there is one thing you can do. I'm a disciple of your grandfather, Nata Muni, and he has left a great treasure for you that he wants to give to you, your inheritance. And Alabantara said, oh, this is very good. Yeah. He's a king. And he was planning on having some battle with another kingdom, so he needs some money. So this is good. All right. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go. And he said, well, you can't bring any of your people. We have to go alone. And this place where this treasure is, it's got 7 walls protecting it. And it's protected by a great serpent. And every 12 years a demon comes and chants mantras, where this treasure is. So we're going to go tomorrow to this treasure. I'm going to give you this treasure. So the next day they start off. And Ram Misra, he starts chanting the Bhagavad Gita. And he chants it from the first verse to the last. He had memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita. Now, Alabandara, he was familiar with the verses. He also knew so many. He hadn't memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita, but so many of the verses he knew, and it was coming back. It was coming back to him, and he was relishing hearing the Bhagavad Gita from Ram Misra. So he said to Ram Misra, "This is wonderful. You're reminding me of my spiritual life, of the importance of the human form of life. Thank you so much." And Ram Misra said, "Well, let's sit and discuss Bhagavad Gita." And he said, "Yes." So, and he had a lot of realizations about the Bhagavad Gita. So, and they stayed in one place for like a week, one village, and he just preached the Bhagavad Gita. And Alabandara, he became so joyful upon hearing again and again the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. He paid dandavats and said, "Please accept me as your disciple. I don't want this treasure. I don't want all these material things anymore. I just want to serve Krishna. I want to be your servant. Please accept me." And he accepted. But he said, "But I have to give you the treasure. I promised my guru, Nata Muni, that I would give you this treasure. So I have to obey his order." So Alabantara said, "Okay, let's go." So they went to Ranganath, to the Ranganath temple. And there's 7 walls. It's the biggest temple complex in all of India, but not the world. The biggest one in the world, believe it or not, is in Cambodia. Huge. I think it's 160 acres. course, they turned it into a Buddhist, but originally it was that was part of India. So it was a Vishnu temple. But this temple where Ranganath is, Lord Ranganath, it's the biggest temple complex in all of India, huge. And there, the Lord is laying on Anantashesh. Yeah? And believe it or not, this deity was established by Vibhishan, who was a demon. And he would come and he would chant mantras, the holy name of Krishna, every 12 years when he was on the planet. So he took Alabanda to get darshan of Lord Ranganath. And he said, "This is the treasure that your grandfather has left for you." So he paid dandavats with tears in his eyes, so happy that he's received this great treasure, Lord Krishna. So Alabandara, he became the great Jamunacharya. To this day, he's one of the most famous acharyas in India. And this he lived back in the 900s, I think, something like that. And Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned in the purport that Ramanujacharya was a disciple of Jamunacharya, but they had never met. So he was like a Shiksha guru to Ramanujacharya. And Ramanujacharya also, he's like, these two are just like, phew, such great acharyas. So the reason I bring up this story is because he was a very licentious person. He was a king, you know. And this happened. He went to Ranganath with Ramesha when he was 35. He was 35 years old. So he had been a king for how long? 23 years, right? 23 years, live in opulence and so much sense gratification. We can't imagine. He had it all. But when he got the higher taste, when he again got the higher taste of Krishna consciousness, he was not interested in sense gratification at all. At all. So much so that there's one verse, the most famous verse in all his writings. He wrote many books. He says, Yalavadhi mamacheta Krishna padara vinde navanava rastami jantimati masi Tadavadhi bhatanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukhavikara sustu nishtivanamcha. He says, since I've been engaged in the loving service of Krishna, experiencing ever fresh happiness at every moment, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought, and my lips curl in distaste. He's repulsed by sense gratification after getting Krishna, after achieving Krishna. Nothing else is interested to him. Interested. So this is a wonderful example of a great devotee whose only interest is in serving Krishna. And this should be our goal, to only be interested in serving Krishna. And this attracts the attention of Krishna. The more we serve Krishna, the more Krishna is pleased. And I was listening to a lecture Prabhupada said yesterday. He said, if you serve Krishna 24 hours a day, he'll serve you 26 hours a day. Krishna likes to serve his devotees. So it's all about service. It's all about service. So we should pray for an intense desire to serve Krishna. And then we'll be very satisfied. So is there any question or comments? Is there a battery in it?
I didn't follow in the verse. It was saying, it was referring to Chandra or Soma as the moon god, but also the king of the forest. I wasn't sure why king of the forest. Was that clear to you? Or
Because it's described in the Bhagavad Gita that the moon is the juice of life to plants. And it's interesting that I was distributing books just a few weeks ago, and one person, he was reading the Bhagavad Gita, and when he got to that text, he couldn't believe it. He closed the book and wouldn't read any more. He couldn't grasp it. It's a pretty far out thing to grasp, because generally we hear that it's you need water and sunlight. Generally, we don't hear about moon, right? Giving life to plants, the juice of life to plants. We don't hear that. But this is the statement of Krishna, and it's I can't understand it either. I mean, if you have plants and you don't have any sunlight hitting it, what happens? They die, right? You got to have sunlight, and they have to have water. But maybe it's actually the moonlight, because we don't generally we think it's the sun, but maybe it's more the moon. According to Krishna, that's the statement. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
In the Farmer's Almanac, they describe how the moon in its cycles has such influence upon the growth or the not so healthy growth of the plants. So that could be one little aspect. There's certainly a correlation or relationship between the moon and the plants.
Yeah.
They always recommend when to plant according to the phases of the moon.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Oh, it's